What makes Japanese pop culture so unique? Anime, manga, video games, J-pop, kawaii, cosplay. How is Japanese culture captivating the whole world? Well, today we are getting to the bottom of it. What makes Japanese culture so unique and original? You're not gonna wanna miss this because to find out what is the origin of the Japanese culture, I went back 23 million years in history. I've found out really interesting phenomena of Japanese culture, which I am sure we can all learn from and apply to our own lives and make ourselves also unique and original. So what makes Japanese culture so unique and what is the origin of it? First, we need to go back 23 million years in history. Way back when, Japan was originally part of the coastal region of the Eurasian continent. Around 23 million years ago, the movement of the earth started to pull parts of Japan, which became the modern Chugoku region and Kyushu eastward region, opening the Sea of Japan. About 11 million years ago, the parts of Japan which became modern Tohoku and Hokkaido were gradually uplifted from the seafloor. The Korea Strait opened much later, about 2 million years ago. And about 20,000 years ago, Hokkaido started to separate from the part of the Russia called Sakhalin Island. And the basic form of Japan was completed. As you can see, completely isolated by the ocean. The fact that Japan is geographically isolated by the ocean becomes the key to understanding Japanese unique culture. Now, in terms of people, the most recent research based on analysis of genomic information based on extraction of ancient DNA concluded that Japanese ethnic origin comes from three major types of people's DNA. One is Jomon people, second is Yayoi, and the third is Kohun people. Out of three, first people to arrive in Japan were the Jomon people. They migrated to Japan between 22,000 and 15,000 years ago. The ethnic roots of the Jomon people are diverse, but can be traced back to ancient Northeast Asia. Experts believe that the ancestors of the Jomon people originated from the Lake Baikal area in Russia, which is now known as Buryatia. This area has been inhabited 23,000 years. This migration came with the Jomon culture, which was characterized by early ceramic cultures. Once they migrated to Japan, though, they were largely isolated from outside gene flow. Well, here is the reason why I needed to go back this long in the history to make you aware of this isolation. We Japanese sometimes call this phenomena a Galapagos syndrome or Galapagosization. Galapagos syndrome refers to an isolated development branch of culture. The term is used as an analogy to a part of Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species. Darwin encountered animals in the Galapagos Islands that are completely isolated from the outside world, undergone evolutionary changes independently from the mainland. This phenomenon was key to the development of Darwin's evolutionary theory. Darwin stated that due to the differences in the environment from one island to another, species adapted to make survival more viable in the local environment of each island. Similarly, the development of culture and the relative isolation from the rest of the world can lead to similarly differing cultures. The term Galapagosization, referring to the process of isolating Japanese Galapagos thinking, links this process to the Japanese island mentality. Now, the Jomon period lasted from about 16,000 years ago until about 2300 years ago. And many Japanese say that the Japanese culture's uniqueness and greatness have their original roots in the arts and culture of the Jomon people. For example, Jomon people's pottery is recognized as the oldest pottery in the world. Taro Okamoto, who famously said, "Art is explosion," is one of the most popular and well-known artists in Japan. Okamoto saw the Jomon people as the pioneers of Japanese arts and culture. He believed that by reconnecting with the primal roots of Japanese Jomon culture, modern Japan could find a renewed sense of identity and purpose. He recalled his first time encountering pottery works of the Jomon era saying, "I was astounded. I have no idea this kind of Japan existed. No, this was the real Japan. I felt my blood grow hotter. My enthusiasm caught fire." Then there was a migration of Yayoi people. Beginning around 300 BC, the Yayoi people entered the Japanese islands from the Korean peninsula. The people of the Yayoi culture are regarded as the spreaders of rice cultivation and the Japanese languages throughout the whole of Japan. The importance here is that when the Yayoi people came to Japan, there was no sign of conflict. Rather, it was a gradual process of intermigration and cultural exchange. As Yayoi agricultural practices spread, coexisting with Jomon traditions, a unique synthesis of culture emerged. Rather than a simple replacement of one culture by another, this historical interplay reflects the capacity of societies to adapt, exchange, and synthesize diverse influences. The enduring legacy of both Jomon and Yayoi cultures has shaped the complex and multi-faced identity of modern Japan, highlighting the richness that arises from the interweaving of traditions across the ages. So, here is the other aspect of Japan that makes their culture so unique. Japan does have an isolation tendency, but when they decide that they want to import some stuff and digest and make something even better, we go all the way. These two opposite tendencies, dynamic yin and yang of cultural isolation and adaptation, is the key to unlocking the magic of Japanese culture. There is a time of complete isolation when the Japanese brewed their own extremely unique culture for the longest time. Then there is a time of avid adaptation of foreign cultures and the creation of a neo-hybrid culture. Japan has a unique tradition of generously accepting and appreciating foreign cultures and adjusting them to their own formats. Because many Japanese cultural traditions were imported from the mainland in ancient times, people were used to accepting and appreciating foreign cultures positively. Likewise, from ancient times, Japanese traditional culture has been inherited and well preserved on the small island nation, as Japan was never colonized by other countries. Historically, the cultural properties of other conquered countries were diminished or even eradicated. In Japan, there was no such cultural destruction. This unique setting, the closed, homogeneous culture of a small island nation, and continued influence from foreign countries formed the peculiar mentality of the Japanese people, an admiration of foreign cultures and ability to invent new things that suit their own culture. For instance, did you know that the name of Hello Kitty, one of the most famous Japanese kawaii characters in the world, borrowed her name from a cat, Kitty, that Alice plays in Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll? So these two pillars of tradition that makes Japanese culture so unique occurred countless times throughout the history. Just to give you a couple of examples, until about 6th century, Japan had its own traditional belief system. However, for the betterment of society, Japan largely adopted Buddhism from India and China. During Edo era, under the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan imposed a strict isolationist foreign policy which lasted for 265 years. Relations and the trade between Japan and other countries was severely limited, and nearly all foreign nationals were banned from entering Japan, while common Japanese people were kept from leaving the country. The Tokugawa government sought to maintain internal stability and control by limiting external influences, particularly those from the West. Well, this was another instance of Galapagos syndrome. For 265 years, Japan brewed its own unique arts and culture independently without any influence from other countries. While the policy of isolation limited international interaction, it fostered a period of internal development. Japanese arts, literature, and traditional practices flourished during this time. Ukiyo-e woodblock prints, kabuki theater, and haiku poetry. The samurai class embraced a refined code of conduct, contributing to the development of Bushido, the way of the warrior. But on July 8, 1853, isolationist foreign policy came to an abrupt end when Commodore Matthew Perry of the U.S. Navy with 4 warships steamed into the Bay of Tokyo and displayed the threatening power of his ships' pikes and guns. He demanded that Japan open to the trade with the West. Amongst the Japanese, these ships became known as Kurofune, the Black Ships. This ended the Age of Samurai period, which lasted 680 years, and Japan entered the Meiji era, which is known as the Meiji Revolution or Meiji Restoration. Here again, Meiji Revolution was the time of avid adaptation of foreign cultures and the creation of neo-hybrid culture. It led to enormous changes in Japan's political and social structure, and Japan rapidly industrialized and adopted Western ideas and production methods. This continued for 80 years until the end of World War II. If you watched my last YouTube video, you can see that this is exactly what the pioneers of J-pop did. Legendary bands like Happy End avidly adapted American rock, pop, and jazz music and created neo-hybrid music incorporating unique Japanese traditional music and language. In fact, I believe that what makes J-pop so unique and melodious lies in the traditional Japanese folk song genre called minyo. But that is for subjects for another time. Japan's history is a captivating tale of isolation and adaptation, narrative that unfolds through centuries of deliberate seclusion and the subsequent assimilation of external influences. The juxtaposition of periods of isolation with eras of cultural openness has profoundly shaped the unique and dynamic character of Japan. Personally, I feel that in the past 170 years, since the Black Ship entered the Bay of Tokyo, while Japan went through an avid adaptation of Western culture, Japan might have lost its identity a bit too much. Perhaps what Japan needs to do now is truly respect and honor its own identity and unique culture. As more and more people from all over the world came to appreciate the uniqueness of Japanese arts and culture, what Japan can offer in this ever-fasting, changing global technological revolutionary time is crucially significant. I am sure that we can all learn from the uniqueness of Japanese culture and apply it to our own lives and make ourselves also unique and original and great. Well, this has been a number 3 video of YouTube series called History of J-pop. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel as my new video is coming soon again. And don't forget, my new song is gonna be released in a couple of weeks. It'll be released on Spotify and everywhere. Alright dreamers, I'll be back in a few days. I hope you have a great days and making a step closer to your dreams.